Hello, friends. So again, today we have one more special guest, and her name is Deepika. And the great thing about Deepika is recently she has cleared 5 interviews: Infosys, SCL, Capgemeni, Accenture, and ITC Infotech. God, and 2, 3 more in a pipeline. So yeah, but for a timing, let's keep it short for 5 companies. And she has jotted down a number of questions, friends. So in this session, we have close to 75 questions. So friends, till now I have not done these many questions with any of my guests so far. So obviously this session is going to be into different parts. So I don't know, maybe it's part 2 or part 3, but we try to cover at least 25 questions in part 1 and part 2 and part 3. So please stay with us till end of the session. And if you are coming new to this channel, Career Talk, please subscribe. And if you find any value from this session, please give a big thumbs up. Your one like tells us that you are liking our content, and we will create more for you. So with this note, welcome Deepika, and thanks for giving your time, Deepika.
Thanks, Sunand. Thanks for this opportunity. And I would like to share my experience and whatever skills. And I have learned so many things from Career Talk also. So that was very nice platform for me to enhance my knowledge regarding the Scrum. So thanks for you and my teammates in the WhatsApp group and the Career Talk as well.
Hey, thanks, Deepika. Okay, so friends, the Deepika, she's having 10 years of total IT experience, and from last 3 years, she's working as a Scrum Master. And yeah, obviously now she wants to change. The market is crazy. So if you are watching it, please go through all these questions. What I found with all these questions, these are very basic or must kind of questions if you are preparing for your Scrum Master interview. So you should know all these questions by heart. So with this note, Deepika, shall we start with our first question?
Yes, Sunand, sure.
Okay. So the very first question is, what is Agile? What is Agile mindset for you?
Yes. So we all know like what Agile is. Agile is not like a tool. It is a method which is having 4 values and the 12 principles which we know. So it is like, it is encouraging the team to work in a collaborative way so that we are delivering highest business value in a shorter time, which is sustainable. So it is basically like delivering a product which is giving highest value. This is what I feel as Agile. And we have various frameworks in within the Agile, that is like it can be Scrum and Kanban and other technology, like other tools as well. So Agile mindset, I think like before we were in a traditional approach like Waterfall approach for all our software development activities. So now we have changed that approach from Waterfall traditional approach to the Agile way of working, where in the traditional approach we see that the requirements or anything, like once we deliver the product, till then we will not know what is the feedback or what is the scenarios, any feedback also will be given at the end. So it is not like possible to change any requirement in the middle of the work. But in Agile way of working, like any feedback is received very early, like fast fail is it is helping us to improve us to react to any change also in a better way. So this is what Agile from my point of view. And coming to Agile mindset, if I can say, if we are learning something new, we have to be focused with that, and we have to do it in a part by part phase. It is not like we can't, I can't assure that everything will be done in a one shot. So doing something which is providing some, adding some value in a part by part phase. So this is like Agile mindset. With our efficient or determination of working, we can achieve whatever we want.
Okay. Okay. Thanks, Deepika, for that. Okay. So next one is, what's the difference between Agile and a waterfall model?
Agile and waterfall model. Yes, as discussed, like in Agile, we have 4 principles and 4 values and 12 principles. And 4 values, what it says is like we have individually give like importance to individual and interactions over following the process plan. So in waterfall approach, we see that we have a defined plan from end to end, like whether it is a planning phase or like development phase. So once we have started, we have like, there is no scope to edit or any like there is no scope to alter any development activities or anything. So we can't start it. If we have to start from the scratch, then it is a it includes the budget issues or the cost related issues or any technical issues. It can be included in the waterfall approach. But whereas in the agile way of working, like rather than giving importance to any plan or anything, if there is any change requirements or any scope changes in between, so that can be handled in an efficient way in the agile way of working. So we don't give like more importance to the documentation. Like we try to ensure that we are delivering a working software, and it is like it is having a value to that feature what we are delivering to the end user.
Okay. Okay. Thanks for that. Okay. So what are the different artifacts in Agile, and which is your favorite and why?
Yeah, working software over the comprehensive documentation is one of the my favorite artifacts, because like we have four values, um, like artifacts. You mean the sense of values, right, Susan?
I mean, it's difficult for me honestly, because artifacts is difficult from values, but maybe they are talking about Scrum artifacts, I would say, because
Okay.
Agile is difficult. Yeah.
From point of view, artifacts, I can say it is like a product backlog and a sprint backlog and the product increments. These are the three artifacts in the Scrum which we have. So from that point of view, if I have to explain what product backlog is, it is like the list of to-do items which consist of the new features or any changes like bug fixes, changes to the infrastructure, and any other activities to ensure that particular output can be obtained. So this is the one of the artifact of the Scrum, that is the product backlog. And moving on to the next one, that is the sprint backlog. It is like I can say it is a subset of the product backlog, which contains certain tasks that the team need to focus, and during the during the execution of the sprint. In terms of sprint, we will be delivering any value or feature like a shippable product to the end user. And I can say the teams will identify the task which from the product backlog. Once the product backlog is prioritized, so we'll be picking certain to-do items in the particular sprint, and we will be completing them, and this will be added in the sprint backlog. And the next artifact, if I have to say, it is like a product increment. It is like the combination of all the product backlog items completed in that sprint, and like the value of the previous sprint increment. So the output of this product increment is like it must be in a usable condition, like it should be meeting our acceptance criteria and the definition of done, so that even if the product owner doesn't, product owner will not be releasing it also, it should be in a working condition. So this is related to the product increment. These are the artifacts in the Scrum.
Which one you think is most important out of these three?
Out of these three, all three are important, because without product backlog, there is no sprint backlog. So all are interlinked. I can say product increment is depending on both product backlog and sprint backlog. So I feel all is important, because without one, the other two will not be having any use, or any functionality will not be specified.
Okay, thanks, Deepika. Okay, so next one is what's the difference between a Scrum and Agile?
Yes, the difference between the Scrum and Agile, like we know like Agile is a method, or like the methodology with the set of values and principle, which will encourage the team to work in a iterative development, and also to work in a collaborative way. Whereas Scrum is like it is one of the Agile framework. I can say it is a lightweight framework which is in the Agile methodology. It will have it is having three roles, three artifacts, and five values, five principles, and three pillars in Scrum. So the main difference between Agile and Scrum is, in Agile we have a set of principles that is iterative and incremental in nature, whereas in Scrum it is like the implementation of the Agile methodology, I can say. And also like in Agile way of in Agile, the project head will be taking care of all the tasks, and it is vital to which is mandatory or vital to the project. But whereas in Scrum, there is no concept like leader. Like we have a Scrum Master who will be working or coordinating with the team, and to deliver any product. So Scrum Master will be working with the Scrum team, and like any changes also, like it cannot be handled frequently. But in terms of Scrum, we can say like team will be able to adapt or react to any changes in a efficient way. And in Scrum, I can say like a sprint will be provided like workable builds, like any feature will be provided with a value added thing, the final product to the user for the paid feedback. Whereas in Agile, I can say it requires a frequent delivery to the end user. So there are the design and execution is simple in Agile, whereas in the Scrum, I can say design and execution can be innovative and experimental. So we can be learning from our experiences. It doesn't mean that if any user stories are like left, we cannot meet any user stories in this particular sprint, will be considered as a sprint failure. But I can say it is a learning lesson, and that can be moved to the like upcoming sprints, and we can pick it up during that.
Okay. So the next question is, what is Kanban? And the follow-up question after this is, what's the difference between a Kanban and a Scrum?
So like we know that Scrum and Kanban, these are the approaches of the Agile methodology. So I can say in Scrum, like when the team is having a definite start and end data to the work cycle, like we can work on the several items at once without altering any timelines. So for that team, I can say that they can go with this Scrum framework. Or else like for the team, like they're having less defined time cycle, like they have to reprioritize their backlog items, or they have to accommodate the frequent changes. So in that particular time, I can suggest that a team can go with the Kanban approach, because we'll be receiving any incidents or the task in terms of service request in the Kanban approach, where the user will be have to support like any scenarios, like they will have to work with that approach in Kanban way of working. Whereas in Scrum, we know that everything will be like well known, and we have planned a list of items in the product backlog, and we will have like defined feature. So team which is having all the details well in advance, like all the things, like all the release plan and all the informations. So they are suggested to go with the Scrum approach.
Okay. Okay. So the next question is on matrices. So what are the matrices used in Scrum project in your organization?
Yes, the metrics, I can say we have burn down charts, burn up charts, and also the release charts. Along with that, we will consider the velocities also. Mm.
Anything else you want to add, Deepika?
But now I think like this three metrics, and along with velocity, like during capacity planning, also we will see what is the capacity of the team. So these
Okay.
metrics are used to measure the progress of the team.
Okay. Okay. And could you also tell us about different events within a Scrum, and which is your favorite and why?
Yes, sure, Sunil. So we have, as per like a Scrum guide, we know like we have sprint and sprint planning, sprint daily Scrum, sprint review, and sprint retrospective. In the as these are the Scrum ceremonies, which is there in the Scrum guide. So my favorite, I can say daily Scrum and the sprint retrospective. These are the favorite events in from my end, because in daily Scrum it give me scope to see like what the team is like. It is not a status call, but I can say I will get an overview like what team is working like on a daily basis, like with the three standard questions, like what went yesterday, what they're doing yesterday, and what will be picked up today, and what are the challenges or the impediments that team is facing. So all these things will be like, it will be given a clear picture for me, like what the where the team is standing in terms of progress. So if there is any action item from my end, so I will be trying to work with them, and I will coordinate with them to resolve these impediments. So other impediment, what I feel like, which is which is important and favorite to me, is like sprint retrospective. So here, like it gives a chance for my improvement, self improvement, also for the team's improvement. And we here will be discussing what went right, what went wrong, and what are the action items, like how as a team we can improve in future days, like whether if we are not meeting any targets or any deadlines on time, so what was the thing, why was it delay? So it gives scope for my self improvement and for the team's thing. So these are the two favorite events of mine.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so next one is what is sprint, and what's the duration of sprint in your project, and what's the sprint goal, and how is it different from a scope?
Yeah, sure. Sprint, I can say it is a time boxed event. So where when like I can say any items from the product backlog, once it is prioritized based on the list, like what is the requirement from the stakeholders or the end user, we will be moving that to the sprint backlog. So all these discussions are happening during the sprint planning based on the capacity of the team. So sprint goal, I can say like it is the outcome of the sprint planning. I like can say once we have this prioritized backlog from the like product owner, we will be picking some items into our sprint backlog, and we will be working like we will be working with the team. What are the activities which can be picked up for this sprint backlog? And this is the, I can say, sprint goal and sprint planning will be the outcome of the sprint planning. And also, like if I have to say what is the duration in my current organization, we are following with the 2 week sprint duration.
Okay.
And if I have to tell about the scope, it is like in that 2 week framework, like in the 2 week time frame, what are the tasks which we are picking up? So I can say that is the scope of the that 2 week sprint, like the sprint goal. What is the objective we are like meeting or delivering to the at the end of that particular sprint.
Okay. Okay. So next question is on sprint planning. So what is sprint planning, and who are the participants, and what is the outcome of a sprint planning?
Yes, sprint planning, we will be having the participants like product owner will be there, the Scrum Master and the development team. These are the three roles which we have in the Scrum Guide. So along with that, we have the external team like the stakeholders, like in case if the team is not clear with anything and the PO will not be able to assist. So at that kind of time, external team or the management team will be there. But in general, as a mandatory during the sprint planning, we have our PO and my Scrum Master and the development team. So what happens in the sprint planning is like we have at initially we will do this capacity planning. We will just discuss like what is the capacity of for that 2 weeks duration. So in my team, what is the team size? So based on the team size, I have the capacity planning template. So I will see what is the occupancy that team will be available, that productive hours for which the team is available. And based on that, once the capacity planning is done for the 2 weeks and based on all the data, we will see like which story, like the which developer will be picking up, and all these activities will be carried out during the planning session, sprint planning. And I can see like if any user stories are not clear or any requirements, or like if there is any dependencies, so we try to resolve that during the sprint planning meeting. And as a continuation of this sprint planning, we have the product refinement sessions. So it is like we will see like if any user stories needs to be redefined or anything. We know like user story should meet the invest criteria. When I say invest criteria, user story should be independent, negotiable, estimable, small and testable. Like this, it should meet the invest criteria, and user story should be independent. When I say that, it should be easily understandable if there is any uncertainties or complexities. So all these things needs to be discussed and sorted out before we start the sprint. So these discussions will be happening during the sprint planning. And also like for the any particular user story, the developers will be giving estimations. So we use that planning poker game and the Fibonacci sequence for the relative, so that the user stories will be estimated, and it is giving the relative estimation so that team can try to deliver to the agreed story points.
Okay, thanks, Deepika, for that. Okay, so the next question is on daily Scrum, and there are a lot of follow-up questions in that. So let me try to give you one by one. So very first is what is daily Scrum, or what is the use of daily Scrum, and is it a time box event, and what are the things which you will discuss during the daily Scrum? So yeah.
Yes, Sunanda, we know like daily scrum is a time box event and that is 15 minutes. So this should be happening as this is one of the scrum event and it should not be missed. We know that when the team is self-organized or like managing by themselves, there are like tendency to skip this daily scrum, but it is my like it is advisable like we have to conduct this like we have to facilitate to understand the team's progress. So it gives us chance to inspect like adapt. So one of the like three pillars what I said in scrum like inspect, adapt and transparency. Like I can't say only daily scrum is facilitating this, giving this scope, but all the scrum ceremonies are very important because it gives us scope to inspect and adapt certain things and we can proceed accordingly. When I said daily scrum, if there are chances that there can be like some disturbances in between and the time duration may extend at a certain point of time, it may get prolonged, it will not be it will not be finishing within 15 minutes of the time. So at that point of time, as a scrum master, it is like my responsibility. Like I have to ensure that I have to finish it on time. And also like I don't want to like unwind that concern also. Like I will keep the concerns whatever raised by the team in the parking lot and I have follow-up sessions and I will try to resolve all those impediments or the concerns which team is having, whether it can be dependency issues or it can be any technical issues or if they want any support from any other supporting team, so external team, so that will be picked up after the daily scrum, so we can have it as a follow-up session or a follow-up meeting.
Okay, so on the daily scrum, follow-up questions are like, should Scrum Master is mandatory for this meeting, or should Scrum Master is organizing this meeting? And the other question is, can you skip this? I mean, your team can skip this if they are self-organized or self-managed, or they are mature enough that they can implement Scrum in their project, their own. So what is your thought on that?
Uh, Daily Scrum, it doesn't it is not mandatory for Scrum Master to facilitate. It is like team member, like it is for development team. So it is mainly for development team what action and how to proceed on the task, like for the sprint planning, for the sprint particular sprint, whatever they are planning. So it is for the particularly for development team to know the status, like the team's progress, where they are on the first day and the like upcoming sprint, like whether they are able to meet the targets, whatever is assigned to them. So it is basically for the development team. So when I say that as a facilitator, Scrum Master, I try to organize this meeting, but it is not mandatory that a Scrum Master only should facilitate this ceremony. It is like a team member can also organize this and they can proceed with this ceremony. And coming on to the next question, like even if the team is self-organized or managing themselves, it is like I can say it is like not without any intention, but they can skip saying that we are all having all the data, relevant data. But we have to be transparent so that this is also one of the main pillar in the Scrum. So to be transparent, I try to facilitate this Scrum event and we are capturing all the data in the Jira board and we are facilitating this.
Okay, thank you for that. Okay, so what is a sprint review and who all are participating in that? And when it happened, basically it happened last day of the sprint or day before the sprint ends. Yeah.
Yes, we know like sprint review, it is like the time to show like whatever we have done to our like PO or the stakeholders. So participant is like, as I say, development team who have worked on that particular piece of code or like the testers. I can say development team and is a must for the sprint review, and also like PO and the Scrum Master, and these are the like external teams are like optional, but when we are giving a demo to our end users, like this is the feature what we have developed in this particular sprint, and to showcase like whether this it is in working condition or not. So we are presenting our piece of work to the stakeholders. So this is what we are doing it in the sprint review. So we are actually following it like we are doing it one day before the sprint retrospective. So at the end of the sprint, we are having this sprint review session, Sunil.
Okay, so one follow-up question is, if you receive any feedback from one of your stakeholder, and that is not that great. So as a Scrum Master, how you are going to deal with that?
Yes, we have to consider the feedback and we'll have to pick it up. Obviously, when we are in the end of the sprint, we cannot like alter anything like within the next day, like before the sprint retrospective, we cannot assure that it will be completed. But if any modifications need to be taken, like any changes in the thing, we can be it can be considered, and we will try to facilitate in the upcoming sprints.
Okay. And this question is on a sprint retrospective. What is sprint retrospective and when it's taking place, and how you capture your action items? So if you can elaborate a little bit about all these points.
Yeah, sprint retrospective is one of the ceremony in the Scrum. So when I say like it is a meeting, like after we have completed our task, so there is this a forum where we can use, like we can check what went right and what went it is what could not be, what could be the improvement because of our like historical data, I can say. It is basically we can see the three follow-up questions in the sprint retrospective: what went right, what went wrong, and what is the action item for the upcoming sprint. So these are the few things, but there are few anti-patterns which few team will be following. Like they will try to gather the data from the past historical, like past experience from the past sprint also, and they will try to generate the insights from like the team members. And as think like I have to see like if any action item or any improvement or ideas that are suggested by the team members, I ensure that any team member like will be owning that action item. So it is not left unassigned to anything, or it is like only for the meeting purpose we have that. I try to ensure that whenever there is any point the team is highlighting the sprint retrospective, it will be picked up and it will be having a particular owner, like who will be owning that action item. And I will try to ensure that it will be accommodated in the upcoming sprint. Like it can be like few will be highlighting that daily scrum will be getting prolonged because of the other concerns that are raised. So this action item I will be picking up, and I will try to ensure as a scrum master, I will also try to ensure that it will not be delayed or anything, so that we maintain the time box for this daily scrum. And other thing also, like if user stories, if the team feels that user stories need to be defined in a better way, so these things like to with whom I can coordinate. So all these things, action items will be picked up, and we'll try to facilitate, and it will be in an effective way with the better results.
Okay. Okay. So next question is on product backlog. What is product backlog and how is it different from a sprint backlog?
Sunand, yes, product backlog, I said, we know like product owner is a person like who will be gathering all the requirements from the end users, like from the business perspective. He will be creating what end user. So all those details will be captured from the product owner, and it will be created in the form of product backlog. So this to-do list of items in the product backlog, we will be picking that, and like we will be delivering to the customer in a phase wise, like in the part by part manner. So I can say those to-do list items, if there are 100 list of items in the product backlog, we can't assure that all the 100 items will be picked up at one shot and it will be delivered to the end user. So instead of that, we are prioritizing our product backlog based on the requirement or the importance or other thing. So we have a different techniques for prioritizing our product backlog. I can say we are having Kano analysis, and also like affinity analysis and Moscow technique. And there are other techniques. For our current project, we are following with affinity analysis. And based on this prioritization technique, once the product backlog is prioritized, so we are like taking certain items from the product backlog and using like moving into the sprint backlog. When I say that, based on the priority, the team needs to pick which particular user story will be executed in that particular sprint. So this is the thing what we have in sprint backlog. So sprint backlog is, I can say, it is one of the outcome of the sprint planning.
Okay, thanks for that. Okay, so the next one is what is user story? What is feature? And what do you mean by adding value to a feature?
Yes, Sunanda. When I say user story, so we know like any user story should have a purpose for behind it, like any objective. So as a end user, if I'm using any app, like if I say mobile app, why I want that, and what is the purpose and what is the reason. So all these things will be included in the user story. So when I say user story, should meet invest criteria, as I said, it should be independent and it should be understandable to the team, and also it should be like meeting the acceptance criteria. So this is like related to the user story. So user story at the end of the sprint, when we are delivering it to the team, so it will be like forming a value. It will like value will be added to that particular user story, and we will be generating a feature at the end of the sprint.
Okay.
So mainly when I say value adding to the feature, it should be like it is in a working format. So it should meet all the definition of done criteria, so that it is in a usable format, and it is in terms of functionality also it should be working as expected.
Okay, shall we move to the next question?
Yes, Sunand.
Okay. So next question is on velocity. What is velocity and how do you calculate a velocity of a newly formed team? So yeah.
Yes, velocity, we know that velocity is the total number of story points that is getting burned during that sprint. If I say like we have committed to 15 story points and we are able to deliver only 10 story points. So that 10 story points will be the velocity of our team for that particular sprint, I can say. So when we have a newly forming team in a Scrum, which is implementing Scrum for the first time, it may be like difficult for us to predict the velocity of the team. But as and when we start with our sprints, so we can see like based on the team's like committed and the delivery of the story points, we can calculate this velocity. So it is like I can tell velocity is being calculated based on the number of story points that team is able to meet or like deliver at the end of the sprint.
Okay. And how you calculate? So let's say you have 4 sprints, and let's assume that velocity of all those 4 sprint is, let's say, 10, 20, 30, 40, right? So how you are going to calculate the 5th sprint velocity?
So I will be taking the middle value of that velocity, and along with this, I need the capacity of my team when I want to predict the velocity of the upcoming sprint. So based on this velocity and the capacity of available of my team members, so I will be like it is like the middle value of the total velocity and divided by the capacity hours and into the previous sprint. I will be calculating that. There is a formula for now. I am not remembering that, but I can say that we have to pick the middle value of the total, like in the 4 sprint, what is the middle value, median value. In that median value, based on the capacity available for that particular sprint. So I will be considering that. And along with that, I will be calculating the velocity of my current sprint.
Okay. And how is this capacity is different from velocity?
Capacity is like the total number of productive hours that will be available for particular sprint. So I can say like if my team's capacity, if all the team members are available for that particular sprint, so I have a full capacity, and it is like the productive hours, and I can capture the available efforts of my team members. So if I can say I have 5 resources, and if we are having a 2 week sprint, I mean the 10 days. So like in 10 days, how many hours like my team is available? So that I will be calculating. So in a day, if we are available for 8 hours, I can say like for 8 into 10 into 8, 80 hours is like a total duration. So if I say one resource, like if we are leaving like considering only the effective hours, so see, out of 8 hours, I'm only considering 6.5 hours. Like other 1.5 hours, I'll be leaving for their other activities like the Scrum ceremonies or the mandatory trainings or the other assessment activities which team needs. So out of 8 hours, if I am only considering 6.5 hours, I will be like calculating like if resource A is available for all 10 days, So I can tell that capacity of that resource A will be 10 into 6.5, like he will be available for total 65 hours. So likewise, I will be calculating the capacity of individual team members, and I have this track. So if I am having 5 team members, and if 2 resources are available for whole 2 week sprint, or based on like if capacity of a team, like I can say if a resource B is available only for 8 days, so other 2 days is on leave for some personal emergency for or any planned leave. So then I can say the capacity of that particular resource will be 52 hours, like 6.5 into that 8 hours. So I will be calculating capacity in this way. So I'm not considering all the 8 hours in a day, but I will be considering only 6.5 hours. So leaving 1.5 hours for their other activities.
Okay, thanks, Deepika. And friends, if you are watching this up till now, so I have already created in the past one detailed video only on velocity, that how you can calculate your velocity before your project start. So if you're not seen that video, please go and browse it. You will easily find it. And there we have shown all these calculations, that how you can calculate each and everything, template and everything is we have shown in that video. So if you have time, please go back and see that video. Okay, so thanks, and let's continue, Deepika. Shall we move on to the next question?
Yes, sure, Sunand.
Okay. So next is on what's the difference between a burn up and a burn down chart?
Okay. Yes, this is one of the metrics which we use in Scrum, so to capture the team's progress. So basically, these are giving the pictorial representation. I can say like it is providing the visual representation to any of us, like where we stand in terms of execution of the sprint. When I say burn down chart, it will track the progress of the sprint, like how much work is remaining, and like it will be it is not applicable for all the subtasks in the Scrum board. I can say it will be only for including the parent task will be considered for this burn down chart. So it will give the representation of how much task is remaining for that particular sprint. When I say like burn up chart, it is like giving the pictorial representation, and it shows it will be helping to measure the progress, and it shows how much work that the team has completed, and it is like the total amount of work which is completed. It gives the overview of the scope of the project, the burn up chart. I can say this is one of the difference between the burn down and burn up chart.
And if any requirement is changing, so which one will get altered, burn up or burn down chart?
It is like burn up chart.
Okay. So this chart will represent the scope of the project?
Yes, like if there is any scope getting altered or new requirements because of anything which is altered, so it will be directly impacting this burn up charts.
Okay, great. Okay, so let's move on to the next question. That is, what is entry and exit criteria?
Yes, entry and exit criteria, if I have to tell, like each phase, like before we accept the project also as a team, like as a project, we'll have certain entry and exit criteria. Like in what all parameters we have to accept, like in terms of infrastructure or anything. So that is the entry criteria for the project from the project point of view. So if I have to explain in terms of development team, I can say like if development team needs to accept any code or anything like before handing over that code to the testing team, they have to ensure that all the sanity testings are completed, so that like before handing over any task to the developer testing team, we need to ensure that the entry criteria, all the code that is to be accepted for the testing is like all this are tested, like whether the smoke testing and sanity testing, like the new build, it should be passing those entry criteria. And for exit criteria, if I have to tell, it will be like to tell whether the testing is completed, like all the test cases should be executed, like the desired and the sufficient coverage of the requirements and functionality is under the test. And there is no like blockers, like there is no critical bugs or major bugs or any bugs is not there. So this is the main intention, like we have to ensure like entry and exit criteria is taken care. It is just like similar to our DOD or definition of done or definition of ready. So for user story, we have the acceptance criteria, use definition of done and definition of ready. But when there is a handover of a task from team to team, there is a certain checklist which the team needs to follow. Like otherwise they may miss something, and at the end of, like in the middle of the testing or in somewhere in the end, they will be getting stuck in that work, and they will not be able to accomplish whatever the objective is.
Okay, so the follow-up question is that only, that what is the acceptance criteria and difference between DOR, DOD? So
acceptance criteria, we know we have a list of items, product backlog items in that. So all these product backlog items will be having a different different acceptance criteria, I can tell. All items will not have the similar acceptance criteria. So it depends on the user story. So based on the complexity or uncertainties or the risk, so they have the different acceptance criteria which will be set by the team, like PO. So this acceptance criteria basically give an answer what is the acceptance criteria that the product backlog item should meet in order to be delivered. So when I say definition of done, this metric is used like this is a checklist we see, like we have to ensure, like if any user story, we have to mark it as complete or done. We have to ensure that whether it is meeting the acceptance criteria or whether that feature, whatever is delivered, what are all the set of activities that team is performing, so that we can say that this product backlog item is meeting the definition of done. And that is one thing. And this definition of done is same, whereas the acceptance criteria is different for all the product backlog items, whereas definition of done is same for all the product backlog items, I can say. They have to meet this criteria instead of in order to say it is done. And it should be like tested, like I can say, and also like all the test cases should be captured in the necessary tools, and along with that it should be deployed and it should be in a workable format. So this is the difference between the definition of done and acceptance criteria.
okay, thanks for that. Okay, so next one is what is SOS or Scrum of Scrum, and yeah, what you do in SOS, Scrum of Scrum, and what's the frequency of this in your project?
Scrum of Scrum, we know like multiple Scrum team will be included in this. Sorry for the trouble. Sunand, can we take a pause for a minute?
Yeah. Okay, Deepika. So next question is on Scrum of Scrum. So what is Scrum of Scrum and the frequency of this meeting for your project?
Yes, we know like Scrum of Scrum is a terminology which is used for like this agile framework, which is required to control and like collaborate with the multiple Scrum teams. When I say like there are different Scrum team working on the same feature or like that, so we'll have to have a collaborative discussion, like to ensure like there is any dependencies or there is any impedances. So to discuss this, we have this Scrum of Scrum meeting. It is like best used in situations, I can say, where like when we are working on any complex assignments. So to collaborate between the Scrum teams, we are using the Scrum of Scrum. And it is also used to ensure like the required transparency or the collaboration, like if there is anything which needs to be established to ensure that products are deployed and delivered in the right way. So to ensure that, we have this Scrum of Scrum, and this frequency is like in a monthly once, like we have this Scrum of Scrum for our projects, Sunand.
Okay. And you are aware about what is CICD?
Yes, CICD is, I am aware of it. It is continuous integration and continuous deployment. When I say it is like CICD, I can say it as when a team needs to like integrate any, for a moment, I'll take a minute to answer this, Sumit.
Yeah, Deepika. Would you like to tell us about what is CICD?
Yes, Nanda, it is like the continuous integration and the continuous deployment. When I say that, we need to understand like in terms of integration, like we are delivering the product in terms of increment, we know that. So in that case, like we have to say like what are all the deployments in like the command practices of this either like sorry, I can tell CICD is a kind of the bridge gaps like between the development and the operation activities, and which the team will be enforcing, like if there is any automation in place, like whether in terms of testing or building, sorry, deployment of any applications. So we'll be using this approach like CICD. And how it works, if I have to say, like it is like comprising, if we have to put like CICD together, it is like a series of the automated workflows that will help the team to cut down any manual task. So if there is any manual efforts that team is putting to do, so that manual efforts can be reduced because of this integration. Like if I can say, if I have to fetch any data manually and it is time consuming, and that can be automated in using any script or anything. So that integration, like we are picking it up, and we are deploying it in our environment.
Okay, thanks for that. Okay, so next one is also pretty standard. So what is a Scrum board and different tools which you are using to managing your project?
Yes, it's Scrum board. When I say for our project in our organizations, we are using Jira tool. So in the Jira tool, we will be using like various features to monitor our day-to-day progress also. Like we have burned up chat, we have reporting section in the Jira board, and along with that we have issues and project and the dashboard which can be created. So all the product backlog items which are created by the PO, and like all like we have an option to create a sprint on what is that I can tell, to start the sprint, end the sprint. All the details will be captured using this Jira tool for our day-to-day activities.
Okay. So next question, not sure why those people ask you this question. This question is on what is sprint zero or foundation sprint. So normally it's a myth. We don't have anything called sprint zero or design sprint or hardening sprint, or so there are a lot of different terminology which are there in the market, which people are still using it. But still, I would like to ask you, because you have shared this question. So what is sprint zero or foundation sprint according to you, Deepika?
Like when I say if a team is new to Scrum, or if they are not clear with any information or like any design document, or if any infrastructure is not ready, so at that time team will be like using this term like sprint zero. It is like it will refer to the small amount of effort that is put by the team to create like the rough skeleton of the product backlog, and it is also provide the insights towards estimating the release of the product, and it will be helping to create the project skeleton, I can say, along with the minimal design. So it will help us to develop some stories, and also like it will give a better understanding, like before we start a sprint, what are all the parameters which we need to consider. Like we can say, like from infrastructure point of view, what are the details we need to have, and from the design document end point of view, we have to capture all the details. So it is like I can say, before starting the sprint, like I can say we have to set up the foundation. So we are using this sprint zero concept here.
Okay, thanks, Deepika. And friends, again, we have done one detailed video, I think half an hour or 1 hour session only on all this estimation, or what is sprint zero or design sprint or hardening sprint. So if you have not seen that, go back and check. So yeah, in that, I think we have done some math buster kind of session with Sylvie in the long time back. So if you've not seen that, go and watch that session as well. And thanks again, Deepika. I think we have covered 25 question. So it's almost like 40 minutes, I would say half an hour or 40 minutes, which we have already spent. So friends, we have reached till 25 questions for this session, and we will have 2 more sessions with Deepika in the future. So what I can say that all these questions are pretty basic and standard, and you can see all these questions are asked in all these 5 big service-based companies, right? So if you're preparing for that, at least you should know these minimal things. And one more disclosure, here Deepika is just helping us with those questions and answers, but you should do your own due diligence, yeah, Take your time, write it down, your answer in detail, add your flavor into it, and then only give that to any of the interviewer. So the personalization thing is very important. Never just copy paste or take as it is from anyone, right? Whether it's this video or any of my videos or any other channel, right? So always due diligence, add your flavor into that. That's most important. So with this note, Deepika, thanks a lot for your time. It's a wonderful session. There are a lot of things which you have covered. And yeah, looking forward for more sessions in future, Deepika. Thanks again for your time.
Thanks, Sunil. Thanks for your time and thanks everyone. As you said, like we have to have our own understanding and our own answers, so it will be easy to remember during our interviews.
Okay.
So, like I have tried to give from my point of view. So, like as Sunan said, if like anyone has any like gaps and all, like if you refer to the career talks video, you will it will give you more information and it will be explained in a detailed way so that it is helpful to all of us.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks a lot, Deepika, for that. Okay, so with this thought, thanks everyone, and see you in next session. Bye.
Thanks, Sunan. Thanks.
Yeah.